Here we go. Okay, so hi everyone, sorry for that delay there. Hello and welcome to Connections and Conversations. Human connection is the most powerful immune boosting, health promoting tool that you have. And it's what you're missing right now. It's what we're all missing right now. I am so delighted you're joining us today or watching us on replay, because today I get to connect and chat with this gorgeous lady, Mel Murphy, who is a divorce coach. Morning, Mel.
Good morning, Sinead. Thanks for having me on your program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, because I know there are lots of people that are going to be interested in this morning. So a lot of the focus of my work currently is on training people to grow their own mental fitness. And your mental fitness is your capacity to handle challenges of life and situations with a positive mindset, instead of straight away getting really upset or really frustrated or annoyed. And life is challenging. And of course, 100% positivity is not well, it's potentially achievable, but it's probably not realistic. So let's aim for 75%. But I get to connect and chat with my clients through conversation mostly now. But these conversations have a purpose and a strategy for people to use for their own well-being. So I'm really looking forward to hearing you explain, Mel, how you connect with people through your work. Because we know a lot of relationships have been challenged as a result of lockdown. So can you tell everybody, Mel, what is a divorce coach and what are you trying to achieve with the clients that you're working with?
Yes, so I own divorcecoachingireland.com. So my name is Mel Murphy, and I'm Ireland's only certified professional divorce coach. So what I do is I help my clients move through the overwhelm of their divorce process to feeling more at the helm and more in control of it towards a more fulfilled life post-divorce. So a lot of the clients that come to me, they're kind of overwhelmed with what's happening, whether it was them who decided to make the move or not. They're still in this process of they can't believe it's happening to them. No one ever marries thinking they're planning to divorce. So when you get divorced, it's like going through the grief process. It's like losing a loved one, a member of your family to grief. And you go through that the same steps and cycle that you would, where you don't believe it's happening to you. You don't want the change. No one likes change. You want to go back to the way it was, even if it wasn't perfect. And you have to deal with all of that. And on top of that, if you have children, you have to manage their emotions as well, and be really strong for them. And if your ex-spouse or ex-partner is being very difficult, you also have to manage them and make sure that they don't press all the buttons they know how to press with you, so that you make bad decisions or act the wrong way that you'll regret later. So there's a lot to manage, and that's why that whole well-being piece that you're talking about, Sinead, is so important. And it's actually something that I put front and focus for my clients. Mm-hmm. Every single session, we look at something that they can set in place for their own support system and their own well-being. And every single session, we go through and look at that activity, make sure they're strong, make sure they're setting themselves up for success. Mm-hmm. And I have a whole program just on that well-being section for them. It's just so important. It'll take a long time to get through it. The first year is incredibly hard. Sometimes it goes through to 2 years. In the past, it was 4 years, because you had to be separated 4 years before you could divorce. And during that time, there's only so much you can lean on friends and family. You need to actually become your own best friend during that period and get to really get to know yourself again. It's a real peeling back the onion stage. A lot of people have lost themselves during that marriage, giving themselves to other people in their family, their children, their spouse. And now they need to kind of come back to who they are and find themselves again. And that person's usually different to whoever they were when they got married in the first place, because they've changed and grown. They have new aspirations, new views of life. And so it's that whole self-discovery process in the middle of the chaos of their life.
Okay. So when people come to see you initially, then do people have to be in the process of divorce, or could they be thinking about divorcing? And are you referring to separation as well?
Yes. So I have different courses that I'm putting together at the moment, because I have people who come to me when they're thinking of getting separated or divorced. They don't have to be necessarily married. They might just be separating from a long-term partnership, usually in which they have children. They want to just understand what they need to do, how they put together some kind of process in place, even like what are the legal pieces Even though I'm not a lawyer, I might just advise them on different steps, who they could go to see, different lawyers that I work with, different mediators, different counselors, just so they can start looking at what they need to put in place if they do make the move towards a separation or a divorce. We look at their financials, what do they need to do to set themselves up for financial success before they actually separate or divorce. We look at the parenting plan. So if they were, where would the children go? How much time would they spend with each parent? We look at their career, if they need to go back to career. If they've taken a break from the career for a while, how do they get back into it? So we do all the career planning for them as well, all that support system to prepare them for that big move if they do decide to do it. If something happens and they come to me because they're in the middle of their divorce process, what I want to do for them is get them through that process as quickly as possible, while keeping them, focused, to get them through and let them know that there's a positive life on the other side, there's light at the end of the tunnel, because they might be completely overwhelmed. They don't know what the next step is. Even a tiny step for them is huge, right? Even to go and see a lawyer, to understand their rights, is a massive step for them. Even for them to come to me in the first place, it's a huge step for them. And so I gave them a step-by-step process of what to do, all huge list of questions of what they need to think about as they create this, because everyone has a different situation and there's not one situation that fits all. So I have them look through all these different questions to think about what's going to really suit them in all different aspects of their lives. They can build a parenting plan, they can get financially organized, and they can move towards a more positive life. And what does that look like for them? And then I also work with people after divorce, because some people are traumatized by the whole process, especially if they didn't have a divorce coach or anyone to support them through it. And they come out a little bit broken on the other side. And it's just how to get back to themselves. And it's all about that wellness piece you're talking about. I'm even starting to do divorce parties now. That's a big thing.
What's a divorce party?
Through the divorce.
Is this online, Mel, or is at the moment it's probably online, is it?
It is, yeah. I've worked with different restaurants and places beforehand that actually specialize in divorce parties. Amazingly enough, it's actually that big a thing in Ireland now.
Okay, wow.
Or now we do something online as well, because it is, when you get out, it's like coming through the biggest exam of your life, and you come out and you just have that big let go process, and you just want to cry and jump around and be happy at the same time, right? So you're still crying that you had to go through it, but you're still so relieved that it's finally over and you can just move on. And I just want people to move on with their lives, and it is a positive life afterwards. Let's just get through this. Let's do it right. Let's do it in a way that you're going to look back and go, oh, thank goodness I made that decision, or I did it right that way. I've set myself up for success in 5 years' time. I'll look back, I'll go, I'm glad I made that decision and not that one. And that's what we're looking for. We want you to look back and go, oh, good. Okay. I did it the right way and I'm okay now.
Okay. And so did you live in America at some point, or?
Yeah. So I'm actually Irish originally, but I moved away when I was about 9 or 10 with my dad's work. So we went to Canada actually for 6 years. Then we were in Australia for 6 years. And then I was working in San Francisco for 6 years. So I never really lost the Canadian accent, I guess. Like I had an Australian accent at one point, and then when I went to San Francisco, my Canadian American kind of came back. And I've been in Ireland. I've been back in Ireland for over 20 years now, but I don't think I'm ever going to lose this accent.
Well, it's lovely. It's unique. It's really nice. Culturally, then, do you see huge differences in relationships in Ireland and attitudes towards divorce or separation here, and that's changed significantly, of course, over the years, but?
Yeah, I guess the education that I did, all the certifications I got were in America, and I also got some certifications actually in the UK. So because it's a little bit different there, and I'm mentoring students now from those courses, and I'm actually working with a lady to set up our own course structure here that's more specialized to Europe, especially UK and Ireland. So over in America, I mean, there's a whole kind of system over there. It's a whole business over there. You got your parenting advisor, you've got real estate agents who specialize in divorce, you've got all the financial experts who specialize in divorce, you've got divorce coaches, loads of them over there, and it's really new here. But I went through my own very difficult divorce about 6 years ago now. We had to be separated 4 years before we could divorce. And it was, a horrible process. Someone that you really loved deeply, and you always kind of love them deep down, no matter what, and who's the father of your children.
Mhm.
And you're telling these horrible things to each other. And it's just awful.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy now that he and I are actually friends now. We get on, we respect each other
Mhm.
despite everything, and we co-parent really well together.
Mhm.
Our children are fine. They're doing really well, actually. And what I was lucky because I had actually been a coach, a life and executive and career coach anyway. So I was able to use all those NLP techniques and coaching techniques on myself and get myself through it. But when I came out the other side, I was like, gosh, all those people going through that and they don't have that support. And so I was like, I really want to help people who are going through that and let them know that it's going to be okay, even when you're in the middle of it or you don't realize that.
Yeah.
I just set them up for success
Yeah.
along the way.
Absolutely. Because it is, I mean, because it takes a while. If you're in a relationship and you think this is just not working, we're not making each other happy, or we're not creating a good life for ourselves, and it takes a while even to get to the stage that you think you're going to leave. So by the time
Yeah.
somebody comes to see you, I would imagine, or do some people come in there or come and see you and go, okay, I want this divorce, and I want this and I want that and I want the other, and they want to control everything, and then other people come and they're completely overwhelmed.
You have all different areas, and a lot of people will have been thinking about it for about 3 to 5 years, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I know in Ireland you would ask me the question, is there a difference between America and Ireland? And I think divorce is really quite new still here. I think it's about 25 years this year since divorce was legalized in
Mhm.
Ireland.
Mhm.
And it used to have to be separated 4 years before you could divorce, and now it's gone down to 2 years, and then that may even change again in the future. It's
Mhm.
just changed in the UK, where you don't have to wait. You can be done and dusted in 6 weeks in the UK. That's
Mhm.
a new piece that's coming through. And I can see that impact in Ireland in the future as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Because when you do go through all the separation, and you might decide to either go through mediation, have a mediation document, which is not legal. So you'd have to put that then through, get signed and put through court by a lawyer to make it a separation agreement, which is, can be held up in court.
Mhm.
Or if you can't agree anything, you go through to a judicial separation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that can be used, those documents can be used then for your final divorce. But
Okay.
all of the things you agree in the separation phase get thrown into the air, and you have to go through all of it again for your divorce process, right?
Oh God.
So
Yes.
hopefully by the time you get to your divorce, you can use your separation agreement or your judicial separation and make a few amendments to it, and it won't cost as much.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to do that. My ex-husband and I, we did a DIY divorce at the end because we had a judicial separation, and we just made a couple of little changes to it.
Mm-hmm.
600 euros later or so, we were done. We just represented
Yeah,
ourselves
because
in court.
I'd say a lot of people, that with the financial aspect, is something that holds people back, or they think I can't do this because it's just completely unaffordable. What would
Yeah.
you say to those people?
I would say that if you can kind of agree with your partner that you're going to go and see a mediator, there's actually free mediation with the family counselors at the circuit courts. So
Mm-hmm.
you can sign up for a free mediation or free legal aid as well. There's also FLAC, so you can actually dial in and talk to someone through the FLAC. You can see this all on the Citizens Information website,
Yeah.
and there's links to talk to FLAC and get free kind of generic advice if you want to.
Yeah.
Then you can go sign up for what's called free legal aid. It actually costs about 1,500 euros, but it's a lot cheaper than going to see a lawyer. So if you just want to kind of cover and understand your rights and get that general information and have someone there to support you, and
Yeah.
then you can sign up for that free mediation, where you go in and you get a mediator assigned to you. And sometimes if you want to, they can actually include the children in that. So depending on the age of the children, they work with the children as well through it if you want to, if you agree to that. And that will really, if you can kind of come to some kind of agreement, it'll really avoid the conflict in court that takes so long and costs so much with lawyers. There's
Yeah.
also cooperative lawyers. So what they do is you would get a cooperative lawyer on each side, and they sit down at the table with you across from each other and
Mm-hmm.
kind of act almost like a mediator, but they also have all the legal pieces behind them. And you can come up with that separation agreement together. So instead of having us over and back and anger, You can get through it much faster that way. They just set up a court
So imagine,
appointment
so
and you go
if you're
through.
going in to do that and you're feeling overwhelmed, then going to see somebody like you so that at least you know, okay, this is what I need to be thinking about. Because because when the relationship is breaking down, there's so much emotion and so much overwhelm. Even though you know what you want, you might not even have the capacity, I suppose, to put a structure on that, or to think, what exactly do I need to think about now for 5 years time, especially if you have kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you, every time you go see a lawyer, it's costing you a few €100, so your first appointment with a lawyer is 200 or 300 euros just for that initial appointment. So I always recommend, if they're going in, that they send to the lawyer their story about why they're divorcing. I mean, in the end, they don't really, it doesn't matter what your story is too much, unless there was abuse, physical or emotional abuse or financial abuse in the household. In which case I would certainly recommend Women's Aid or Men's Aid to go and talk to them about that. But you kind of come in with just the decision that you're going to divorce, and that you're going to, you've lived separately for X amount of time, etc. And I get them to kind of send that in advance, so they're not using their time on the story. They email that in, and then they come in with all of their financial stuff already put together. So they come in saying, okay, this is, what we're earning is a basic budget of what I'm going to need if I was to separate. This is our house, or where we're renting, or our investments. And this is what I think my partner is probably going to need, is what I'm probably going to need. This is the gap in between that we're still trying to figure out. This is where I think the kids should stay most of the time, and this is where I think they should stay the other time. This is why, and this is how I'm going back to career, because most courts expect both parents to work now. They're not going to expect that one parent is a stay-at-home who gets supported by the other person. That's quite rare nowadays. They are expecting you to kind of go back to work and start supporting yourself.
And
So
what
you
about,
kind of go in with a rough idea of what you think is probably going to work, and they will give you more advice around that then legally.
what about people then in the scenario where they haven't worked for 20 years? Because if you've been in a very difficult relationship and your confidence is destroyed, I guess that's what working with you, that you will build your confidence as well, so that you can then feel, you can start looking at your options for career. I think you mentioned that earlier. Or for
And I've worked with Women's Aid, and I've worked with people who come from different forms of abuse, even if it was just emotional abuse, or physical abuse, and a lot of financial abuse too, where they were just, cut off from all the money and given a certain amount of, very limited amount of money to work with. And a lot of their, they have a lot of self-doubt, and a lot of their self-confidence has been eroded over time. Little by little, they didn't even realize it, and they're almost broken, or sometimes they're broken. And that's why sometimes it's just tiny little steps to get back, little bit by little bit, just making those little moves, to get back to themselves, and even setting up the protection little bubble around themselves, so their ex doesn't know. They know how to press all your buttons and get you feeling awful about yourself. How do you just stay away from them? And how do you protect yourself so that you have that bit of confidence to move forward, and that support structure to help you with it? And then I work with them to see, okay, what can we do to get you back on track, to start earning a little bit of your own income, so you start to feel that confidence in yourself as well. Even if it's just a little bit, it doesn't matter. And it's great to have the legal aid and the FLAC there to help you. And then there's really great support systems like SONES, who work with the government to help you find some housing, or help you get set up on your own. So SONAS, they're really lovely charity that kind of help out with getting you set up if you are to leave a difficult situation. Because that's what you're looking for, right? Is a roof over your head and your children's heads, and food on the table, just a safe place to be. And we look at so many different options where else you can go during that time, even if it's just for a temporary reprieve. I know myself, I stayed with a friend for a little while, just to kind of have that space away from that person, and have a little bit of relief and reprieve for yourself, so you can think properly. You might just need a few days or a week just to kind of get your head around what's really happening without having that person near you.
Yes, absolutely. And have you spoken to people in lockdown now? It's not as easy for people, well, people can't leave as easily. I assume it's possible, but it's another challenge, isn't it,
It's a
in
little
terms of
bit of a challenge, but it's definitely surmountable. I mean, you still have the legal aid over the phone and Black over the phone. You can still make appointments to see them.
yes,
Um, you can still go and see get appointments to see real estate and to to rent a place. You know,
yes,
so
yeah,
some places are actually begging for tenants because they
yes,
haven't. A lot of people don't want to move around, and
mm,
actually, some people are looking at Airbnb. You know, there's some Airbnbs that are lying there empty, where they're kind of happy enough for someone to move in for a temporary amount of time at a more basic rate,
yes,
just to get some income in. So
yeah.
there's a lot of different options still
So
there
there's
for people.
actually,
So the services are still there.
in some ways, there are advantages at the moment, if it is something
Yeah.
that you're thinking about or something you need. Yeah, yeah,
And for some people, like the fact that you can work from home means that you can be there with the children and
mm,
working from anywhere. And you don't have to be in an office and you don't have to be paying for childcare,
absolutely.
which is a huge savings. I mean, people pay about €1,000 a month on childcare or more.
Yeah,
So in a way, having that savings at the moment
mm,
um, gives you maybe that money you need to pay for the free legal aid or the deposit for a
yeah,
place to rent, you know? So there are options definitely. And I certainly wouldn't stay in a situation that's endangering you if you are in a difficult situation. And I would certainly go and talk to men's aid or women's aid to make sure that if you do leave the situation, you leave it safely, right? So that's very important.
so so we've spoken about kind of, I suppose, well, I've brought the conversation to the overwhelm part. What about later on in the process? So when the person is, you've worked with a person and they've gone through their divorce and they've had all these challenges and they're out the other end, what are the changes that you observe in people as they go along?
What I see when I work with people is just having that structure for them where they know the different steps they need to take along the way, all the questions they need to think about. It really helps them kind of get out of that overwhelm situation and helps them know what's coming next and be prepared for it. They also manage how other people are affecting them, and they become so much more resilient. I mean, it's actually beautiful to see, the transformation as they grow and become so much stronger in themselves.
Yeah.
And then when they get to that end, they get into that court, they sign those documents and it comes back, just that relief, like I was saying,
Yes.
just it's such a weird mix of emotions for them because there's the sadness that it's actually really over,
Mhm.
but there's this whole like new, it's like, a butterfly being born, you get to, that's actually the paintings that some of my friends gave me when I went through mine was the transformation process of the butterfly coming out. And there you are, your beautiful self, and you were being held back so much beforehand, you couldn't really be you. And
Yeah.
you're here in this life to be fulfilled, to do something. And a lot of people just couldn't do that in the relationship they were in. And they were just living this kind of lie.
Mhm.
So, and I see the children, and I want the children is a huge topic too. The children will be all right, and um, I have a whole module in my course around the children, and I'm doing a big focus area on that at the moment too. It might take them 6 to 12 months to adapt, but they'll be okay in the end. So don't worry so much about the children, and there's different steps you can do to make it easier for them.
Mhm.
Just make sure that this is your one life, that you're going to do what you can with it, right? So
Mhm.
if you can't, obviously, I always ask people to go through couples counseling and try to kind of amend and stay in the relationship. It's much nicer if you can stay.
Yeah.
But if you are in a abusive relationship in any way, couples counseling and mediation doesn't usually work because the other person will walk all over you
Mhm.
and they'll just twist things around. So we always say that in those situations, unfortunately, couples counseling, mediation, and usually cooperative lawyers don't really work out, and you
Yeah.
end up having to go more into the judicial situation. So
Absolutely.
that's where you will really need to have that therapist, maybe your counselor, as well as maybe your coach, your divorce coach, to help you through those more difficult situations.
I think what I like about having, and everybody's different and it depends on the kind of support you need. But what I
Yeah,
like about having a coach is that well, for me, it's a practical support and you're empowering the person. So you're helping the person, I guess, to see their own strengths and then to be able to move on and to grow and to build their confidence and to get out there and live that life that we're all here for, because there's one chance. This is it. You have one
Yeah.
chance. So
And one of the exercises I do with my clients is to look forward 5 years. Where do they see themselves in 5 years' time? Because you get so bogged down in the detail of now, but 5 years' time is going to be completely different to where you are now. So you have to just focus on that. And then all the decisions you make now are to get you to there, like 3 to 5 years' time. So that the decisions you make now are for that ideal life in a few years.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm actually just I'm gonna, because this is so interesting and you've given so much information, I'm gonna skip the other questions. And what I really want is for people to know any events that you're running, or where they can find you on social media, or where people can find you, full stop.
Okay, so I can be found on divorcecoachingireland.com. I'm also on Divorce Coach IRL on Twitter. You can find me on YouTube on Separation and Divorce Coaching. And I'm also on LinkedIn under Mel Murphy, Separation and Divorce Coaching. So it's all under the same kind of headings.
Yes.
And I tend to share the information across. I'm actually building, as I said, a course at the moment. I've got the first course on pre-divorce, when you're thinking of getting divorced. Just getting that done up all professionally. So all the videos are done and the workbook, and I'm going to be setting up an account on Podia with that. So I expect to launch that over the next couple of weeks. And then I'm in the process of building different modules for the during divorce piece. So I'm doing modules on the children, modules on your finances, modules on well-being, and people can go in and choose whichever ones they want or whatever is important to you at the moment, or you can buy them as a package. So I'll be promoting all that soon.
Mel, is that self-directed? So the online course? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then they can work with you one-on-one if they want, if they need more.
Yeah. So with the courses, it kind of has a lot of this information in it, that will help you with the most important pieces, and the whole workbook with the different questions you can ask yourself. And then people can come to me then for one-on-one as well. If you just want, I can go through all of the course pieces with you as in a one-on-one session or over a few sessions. If you just need someone to talk to make you feel more comfortable about where to go in your next steps, and you don't have too much time, doing a one-on-one session is great. I also have every Tuesday night at 9:30, I do a drop-in support. So that's on my calendly.com/separation and divorce coaching Ireland. And on that has everything, as well as on my website. So every Tuesday night you can drop in for just a few euros, and I can answer any questions you have. Or I offer a 15 to 30 minute, well, it says 15 minutes, ends up being at least half an hour, free introduction call. So all that's on my website too. You could just book some time with me, get to know me, see if you feel comfortable, and let's see how we can work together as well.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mel. I really appreciate you doing this today. And I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sinead.
You're welcome. You stay just for a sec. Okay. And,